unaware his pregnant wife wed, a billionaire CEO. He sprays her with dirty water near a mistress. The freezing, filthy water hit my stomach so hard, I actually gasped and grabbed my belly, terrified I'd just lost the baby right there on the street corner. 5 months pregnant, soaked in sewage water that smelled like rot and oil and everything disgusting you can imagine. And then I heard his voice, that voice that used to whisper, "I love you," that same voice that told me I killed our son. Derek leaned out of his Maserati window, his face twisted in this smile I'd never seen before. Pure cruelty. Crystal sat beside him in the passenger seat, designer sunglasses pushed up in her hair, laughing like this was the funniest thing she'd ever witnessed. "Oh my God, Maya, is that really you?" Derek's eyes traveled over my wet, cheap maternity clothes, my messy hair, my face without makeup, my old canvas shoes now soaked through, still shopping at discount stores, still looking like the failure I left behind. Some things never change, huh? I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking, pressed against my pregnant belly, filthy water dripping down my face, into my eyes, soaking through to my skin. Then Derek's gaze landed on my stomach. His smile widened, sharpened into something that wanted to cut. "Wait, are you actually pregnant?" I still couldn't find words. My throat had closed up. All I could do was stand there, dripping, shaking, one hand protectively over the baby I'd been told I'd never be able to carry. "Oh my God, Vanessa, look at this." Derek's voice got louder, like he wanted everyone on the street to hear. "Some desperate fool actually got my ex-wife pregnant." He laughed, this harsh bark of sound. "Does he know you're defective, Maya? Does he know you're the doctor who killed her own kid?" The words hit me like physical blows. I felt my knees start to buckle. "We both know your body couldn't protect Noah." Derek leaned further out the window, his voice dropping to something designed to destroy. "So what makes you think you can protect that baby? You'll probably kill this one too." Crystal touched his arm, giggling. "Richard, she looks miserable enough. Is she really the ex-wife from all those articles? The one and only?" Derek revved his engine. The doctor who chose a stranger over her own dying son. The one who's so broken inside, she shouldn't be allowed near children. My vision blurred. Not from the dirty water. From the tears I was fighting so hard to hold back. From the memories flooding in. The hospital. Noah's small body. The choice I had to make. The guilt that still lived in my chest like a second heartbeat. "You know what, Maya?" Derek's final words were calculated, precise, designed to hit exactly where he knew I was weakest. "I'm glad Noah isn't here to see what you've become. At least he's spared the embarrassment of having you as a mother." The Maserati's engine roared. Derek and Crystal drove off, laughing, leaving me standing in a puddle of filthy water with my groceries scattered around my feet and a crowd of strangers staring at me with pity and judgment, and phones held up, recording. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. The screen was wet. My fingers left muddy smears. I dialed the only number that mattered. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, love, how's shopping?" My voice cracked. "Julian, can you please come get me? Something happened." "Where are you?" 15 minutes later, a convoy of black SUVs pulled up. Not one vehicle. 3. Security personnel stepped out first, scanning the area like they were protecting royalty. Then Julian emerged from the center vehicle. He looked different than the man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning. Command radiated from him. His suit probably cost more than most people's cars. The way he moved, the way people instinctively stepped back, the authority in every gesture. This wasn't Julian Hart, the humble nonprofit coordinator I'd married 3 months ago. This was someone else entirely. The moment Julian saw me, covered in filthy water, shaking, crying, hands pressed protectively over my pregnant stomach, his expression transformed from concern into something cold and lethal. He crossed the distance between us in 4 strides and wrapped his coat around my shoulders. The coat was warm, expensive, smelled like him, safe. Who did this? His voice was gentle when he spoke to me, but his eyes were scanning the crowd like he was memorizing every face. "Maya, who did this to you?" "My ex-husband." The words came out broken. Derek. He saw me and he drove through the puddle on purpose, and then he said, what did he say? That I'll kill this baby too, just like I killed Noah, that I'm defective, that I'm an embarrassment, that Noah would be ashamed to have me as a mother. Julian's jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jumping. His hands were gentle on my face, but his eyes had gone completely cold. Someone in the crowd whispered loud enough for us to hear, "Is that Julian Harrington?" I looked up at Julian, confused. "Why did they call you Harrington?" But Julian wasn't looking at me anymore. He was speaking quietly to one of his security team. "Find Derek Ashford. I want to know everywhere he'll be for the next month. I want a complete file on his business, his finances, his relationships, everything, and find that video. I saw 3 people recording. I want every angle." "Julian, what's happening? Who's Harrington?" He finally looked down at me, and for just a moment, I saw something in his eyes that looked like guilt mixed with determination. "Let's get you home first. Then we need to talk." If this story has already gripped your heart, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happens next will show you that sometimes the people who hurt us have no idea who they're really dealing with. And the revenge that's coming is so perfectly calculated, it'll leave you speechless. Now let me take you back to where this all started, because you need to understand who Maya was before the world broke her, before she lost everything, before she became the woman standing in filthy water believing she deserved it. 6 years ago, Dr. Maya Torres was untouchable. At 26 years old, she was the youngest trauma surgeon at London's Royal Victoria Hospital, the kind of doctor who could walk into chaos and bring order, who could hold someone's life in her hands and refuse to let go. She had hands that didn't shake, even when everyone else was panicking, a mind that could calculate 1,000 variables in seconds, and a heart that genuinely believed medicine was a calling, not just a career. Maya had grown up poor in East London, raised by a single mother who cleaned office buildings at night so Maya could have tutoring during the day. When Maya got her acceptance letter to medical school with a full scholarship, her mother cried for 3 days straight. Happy tears, proud tears, the kind of tears that said every sacrifice was worth it. Medicine wasn't just what Maya did, it was who she was. She met Derek Ashford during her residency. He was 28, working in real estate development, ambitious and charming in that confident way that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. Their first date was supposed to be coffee, but it turned into a 6-hour conversation about dreams and childhood and the kind of life they wanted to build. Derek seemed proud of Maya's career back then. He'd bring her coffee during her brutal shifts. He'd brag to his friends that his girlfriend was saving lives. He'd wait up for her when she came home at 2 in the morning, exhausted and still in her scrubs. They got married in a small ceremony at a registry office. Maya wore a simple white dress. Derek's vows promised to support her dreams, to stand beside her through the hard years, to build a life where they both could thrive. For the first 2 years, it was beautiful. They bought a small house in South London. Derek's business started growing. Maya made attending physician at 28, the youngest in her department. They talked about children, about the future, about growing old together. Then Maya got pregnant. She cried when she saw the positive test. Happy, overwhelmed, terrified tears. Derek picked her up and spun her around their tiny kitchen, laughing. "We're going to be parents. We're actually going to be parents." They turned the spare bedroom into a nursery, painted it soft yellow because they wanted to be surprised by the gender. Derek assembled the crib, swearing at the instructions, while Maya sat on the floor organizing tiny clothes that seemed impossibly small. Their son was born on a rainy Tuesday in March, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, perfect. They named him Noah, and the first time Maya held him, she understood why people said you don't know real love until you have a child. It was love so overwhelming it was almost frightening. Love that made you understand you'd do absolutely anything, sacrifice everything, die without hesitation if it meant keeping this tiny human safe. Maya took 3 months of maternity leave, the shortest time allowed. She was anxious to get back to work, not because she didn't love Noah, but because she loved medicine too. Derek didn't understand that. He'd started making comments. "You're going back already? Noah's still so small. Most mothers want to stay home longer. My mother stayed home until I was in school. But Maya wasn't most mothers. She was a surgeon. She had patients who needed her, a career she'd sacrificed everything to build, a calling she couldn't ignore. She went back to work when Noah was 3 months old. Derek's mother watched the baby during Maya's shifts. It was supposed to work. It did work. For a while. But Derek had started changing. His business was growing faster than expected. He was making real money now, buying expensive suits, driving a new car, moving in circles where wives didn't work, where wives attended charity luncheons and managed households and raised children. He started making subtle comments about Maya's career. Do you really need to work these hours? We don't need your income anymore. Don't you want to spend more time with Noah? Maya tried to explain. It's not about the money, Derek. It's about who I am. I'm a surgeon. I save lives. I can't just walk away from that. But Derek heard it as you're choosing work over family. Over me. Over our son. The resentment grew slowly, like mold in a damp corner you don't notice until it's already spreading. Noah turned 4 on a rainy March day, exactly 4 years after he was born. They threw a small party at their house. 20 children from his preschool. Parents Maya barely knew. A bounce house in the garden. A cake shaped like a dinosaur because Noah was obsessed with dinosaurs. Maya had requested the day off months in advance. She was there for the morning, helping set up, watching Noah's face light up when he saw the decorations. But at 11:30, her pager went off. Mass casualty incident, multi-vehicle motorway accident. All trauma surgeons report immediately. Maya's stomach dropped. She looked at Derek, who was lighting candles on the dinosaur cake. I have to go. Derek's face went hard. It's Noah's birthday, Maya. I know. I'm so sorry, but there's been a major accident. They need every surgeon. They always need you. Derek's voice was cold. Our son needs you. For once, can't someone else handle it? Maya felt the familiar guilt rising. The constant tension between the two things she loved most. But she also knew the math. Mass casualty meant multiple people dying without enough surgeons to save them all. I'll be back as soon as I can, I promise. She kissed Noah's forehead. Happy birthday, baby. Mummy has to go help some people who are hurt, but I'll be back soon, okay? Noah, 4 years old and not understanding, just nodded. Okay, Mummy. Maya drove to the hospital, that familiar guilt sitting in her chest. But also that familiar sense of purpose. This is what I'm meant to do. This is who I am. She arrived at Royal Victoria Hospital at 12:15. The emergency department was controlled chaos. Ambulances lined up, paramedics shouting updates, nurses triaging, the attending physician, Dr. Rashid, grabbed Maya the moment she walked in. We've got 17 critical patients incoming. 3 are surgical. I need you on the worst one. Male, late 20s, steering column through the chest, 72% blood loss. He's got maybe a 12% survival rate, but you're the best we've got. Maya nodded, adrenaline already sharpening her focus. Where is he? Trauma 2. We're prepping now. Maya scrubbed in, her mind already running through the procedure. Steering column through the chest meant possible cardiac involvement. Definitely vascular damage, high probability of exsanguination. She'd need to move fast, be precise, not make a single mistake. She entered the trauma bay at 12:43. The patient was already intubated, chest open, blood everywhere. The anesthesiologist called out numbers that were all wrong. Blood pressure dropping, heart rate erratic. This man was dying. Maya stepped up to the table, and everything else disappeared. There was only the patient, the damage, the repair that needed to happen. Her hands moved with absolute certainty, clamping vessels, controlling bleeding, working around the steering column that had impaled him like a spear. She was 20 minutes into the surgery, finally getting control of the bleeding, when the trauma bay door opened. Dr. Torres. It was one of the ER nurses, her face pale. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's been an emergency. I'm in the middle of an emergency. Maya didn't look up from the surgical field. Whatever it is will have to wait. Dr. Torres. It's your son. Maya's hands froze. Time stopped. The steady beep of monitors seemed to get louder, sharper, like they were screaming. What? There's been an accident at your home. Your son, Noah. He's been brought to the pediatric emergency. Dr. Torres, he drowned in your pool. The words didn't make sense. They were sounds without meaning. Noah, drowned, pool, impossible. Maya looked down at her hands, buried in this stranger's chest cavity, holding vessels that would bleed out in seconds if she let go. Looked at the monitors, showing a heart rate that was finally stabilizing. Looked at this man who would absolutely die if she walked away right now. How bad? Her voice didn't sound like her own. The nurse's eyes filled with tears. It's very bad, Dr. Torres. They're working on him now. But you should, if you can. If I leave now, this patient dies. Maya said it out loud. To herself. To God. To whatever force made doctors have to make choices like this. If I stay, I might save him. Maybe. 12% chance. Dr. Torres, it's your son. 45 more minutes. Maya's voice was shaking now, but her hands were steady. That's how long I need to close the major vessels and get him stable enough for Dr. Rashid to take over. 45 minutes. Dr. Torres. Tell them I'm coming. Tell them. Maya's voice broke. Tell them Mummy's coming. Tell Derek I'm coming as fast as I can. The nurse left. Maya kept operating. And for 45 minutes, while her 4-year-old son died 3 floors down, Dr. Maya Torres saved the life of a complete stranger. She didn't know his name was Julian Harrington, didn't know he was the son of one of Britain's wealthiest families, didn't know that he'd remember her, search for her, change her entire life. All she knew was that when she finally closed the last vessel, when she finally stepped back and let Dr. Rashid take over, when she finally ran down 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was too slow, when she finally burst into the pediatric emergency bay, she was 48 minutes too late. Noah was lying on a gurney, small and still and perfect. No marks on him. He looked like he was sleeping. But the monitors were silent. The crash cart was pushed against the wall, already cleaned up. The resuscitation was over. A pediatric doctor Maya didn't recognize approached her gently. Dr. Torres, I'm so sorry. We did everything we could, but he was without oxygen for too long. By the time the paramedics arrived, I'm so sorry. Maya walked to the gurney like she was moving through water. Everything was slow, distant, wrong. She picked up Noah's small hand. It was still warm. Baby, Mummy's here. Her voice was shaking. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm so sorry. Wake up, baby. Please wake up. But Noah didn't wake up. He would never wake up. He died while she was saving someone else. Derek arrived 10 minutes later. He stood in the doorway of the pediatric bay, and when he saw Noah's small body on that gurney, when he saw Maya holding their dead son, something in his face just shattered. He walked over slowly, looked down at Noah. His voice when he spoke was completely flat, emotionless, like he'd shut down every feeling just to survive the next few seconds. You saved a stranger and let our son die alone. Derek, I couldn't. The patient would have. Our son drowned. Derek's voice got louder. Our 4-year-old son drowned at his own birthday party, and you weren't there. You were here, saving someone else's life while our son died. Maya couldn't defend herself. Because he was right. She'd made a choice. The choice she was trained to make. The choice that saved a life. But the choice that cost her everything. I held him. Derek's voice broke. I held our son's body and called your name. The paramedics asked me where you were, and I had to tell them you were at work. At his birthday party, while he drowned, you were at work. Derek, please. But Derek turned and walked out, and that was the beginning of the end. The investigation was quick. Noah had been playing in the garden during his birthday party while adults were inside getting more food. He'd somehow gotten through the pool gate that should have been locked. By the time anyone noticed he was missing, by the time Derek found him floating face down in the shallow end, it had been too long. Accidental drowning. No one's fault. Just a terrible, tragic accident. But Derek didn't see it that way, and neither did Maya. She took a leave of absence from the hospital. Spent weeks in Noah's bedroom, sleeping in his small bed, surrounded by his toys, his clothes, his smell that was slowly fading. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. Derek moved into the guest room, stopped talking to her except when absolutely necessary, started drinking, started staying out late, started looking at her like she was a stranger he didn't recognize. 3 months after Noah's death, the hospital asked Maya to return. She wasn't ready, but she also couldn't stay in that house anymore, in that bedroom, drowning in guilt and grief. She went back to work, but something was different now. Her hands shook during procedures, her confidence was gone. She'd freeze in the middle of surgeries, suddenly terrified she was making the wrong choice. The medical board noticed, recommended therapy, recommended more time off, recommended psychiatric evaluation. Maya started seeing a therapist twice a week, was diagnosed with PTSD, survivor's guilt, complicated grief, major depression, started medication, but nothing helped, because the guilt was too big, too overwhelming. She'd chosen to save a stranger over being there when her son died, and no amount of therapy could change that fact. Derek filed for divorce 6 months after Noah's death. Maya didn't fight it. She signed whatever papers his lawyer put in front of her. Gave him the house, the car, everything. She didn't care about any of it. But Derek didn't just divorce her quietly. He told everyone, their friends, his business associates, anyone who would listen, that Maya had chosen her career over their dying son, that she was at the hospital saving strangers while Noah drowned, that she was a heartless, career-obsessed mother who cared more about her job than her own child. The story spread, made its way into medical circles, then into the press. Doctor chose surgery over dying son became a headline. Maya's name, her face, her worst moment broadcast for everyone to judge. The hospital put her on administrative leave. The medical board opened an ethics investigation. And even though they eventually cleared her, even though every physician agreed she'd made the choice she was trained to make, the damage was done. Dr. Maya Torres, once the best trauma surgeon in London, became known as the doctor who chose wrong. She lost her surgical privileges. Not officially. But the hospital quietly suggested she might be happier in a different specialty. Maybe something less high pressure. Maybe something where life and death decisions weren't constant. Maya understood what they were really saying. We can't trust you anymore. We can't have a surgeon who might freeze at a critical moment. She resigned, lost her career, lost her identity. The divorce finalized 1 year after Noah's death. Maya moved out of their house, out of the neighborhood, out of the life she'd built. She rented a tiny flat in Brixton, started seeing a new therapist, started medication for suicidal ideation because twice, late at night, alone in that tiny flat, she'd thought about just ending it, just stopping the pain. But something kept her here. Maybe it was Noah. Maybe it was the stubborn part of her that refused to let Derek's version of the story be the only version. Maybe it was just the basic human instinct to survive. She started volunteering at a free medical clinic in East London. Hope Medical Clinic served the underserved, the immigrants, the people without insurance, the ones who fell through every crack in the system. Maya couldn't do surgery anymore. But she could do this. She could provide basic care, prescribe medication, treat infections, deliver babies, hold hands, offer compassion. It wasn't trauma surgery, it wasn't the operating room, but it was medicine, and slowly, piece by tiny piece, it started to feel like maybe she could live with herself again. 2 years passed. Maya lived quietly, simply. She worked at the clinic 4 days a week, went to therapy every Wednesday, took her medication, avoided anything that might remind her of her old life, avoided the news, social media, any place she might see Derek's name or face. She learned to carry Noah's death not like a weight that would crush her, but like a scar that was part of her now, still painful, but survivable. She learned to forgive herself. Not completely. And she learned that broken things could still have purpose. That failure didn't mean the end. That sometimes you had to lose everything to find out who you really were. But what Maya didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man whose life she saved that day, the stranger she chose over being there when Noah died, had spent 2 years searching for her. Julian Harrington woke up 3 days after his surgery with no memory of the accident, no memory of the trauma bay, no memory of the doctor who'd saved his life. But when he was strong enough to ask questions, when he learned how close he'd come to dying, when the medical team explained that Dr. Maya Torres had performed a surgery that most surgeons wouldn't have even attempted, he wanted to thank her. That's when he learned the rest of the story. That Maya's son had died while she was saving Julian's life, that she'd made an impossible choice, that she'd lost everything because she refused to let him die. Julian came from wealth, unimaginable wealth, the kind where you could buy almost anything, but you couldn't buy the kind of courage it took to make the choice Maya made. You couldn't buy that kind of integrity. He tried to find her, sent letters to the hospital that were returned, called the medical board who cited privacy laws, showed up at her last known address to find she'd moved with no forwarding information. For 2 years, Julian searched, used private investigators, used every resource his family's empire could provide. And finally, 6 months ago, someone found her, working at a free clinic in East London, living in a modest flat, driving a 15-year-old car, completely off the grid from her old life. Julian could have shown up as himself. Julian Harrington, billionaire's son, CEO of a £14.8 billion empire, could have overwhelmed her with gratitude and money and offers to fix everything. But he'd done his research. He knew what Maya had been through. He knew she'd been used, blamed, destroyed by someone who saw her as a possession. He knew she'd lost everything. So instead, Julian Harrington became Julian Hart, rented a modest apartment, created a false background as a nonprofit coordinator, and walked into Hope Medical Clinic 6 months ago as a volunteer. He showed up on a Tuesday morning wearing jeans and a plain sweater, looking nothing like the man who'd been on the cover of Financial Times 3 weeks earlier. Maya was in the middle of treating a young mother's infected wound when the clinic director introduced them. "Maya, this is Julian Hart. He's going to be volunteering with us. Has experience in nonprofit medical program coordination. Julian, this is Dr. Maya Torres. She runs our daily operations." Maya looked up and smiled. The first genuine smile Julian had seen in any photograph or video of her. "Welcome. We can definitely use the help." That was it. That was how it started. Not with revelation or drama or grand gestures. Just 2 people in a clinic that smelled like antiseptic and hope, trying to help people who had nowhere else to go. Julian spent that first week watching Maya work. The gentle way she spoke to patients who were afraid, the way she knew everyone's names, their children's names, their stories, how she'd slip medication samples into bags when people couldn't afford prescriptions, how she'd stay 2 hours past closing to sit with an elderly man who was lonely. This wasn't the brilliant trauma surgeon from the articles. This was someone who'd been broken and rebuilt herself into something softer, kinder, more human. By the second week, they were working side by side. Julian helping with intake forms while Maya examined patients. They fell into an easy rhythm, comfortable silences, occasional conversations about cases, about the systemic failures that brought people to free clinics, about how healthcare should be a right, not a privilege. Maya never talked about her past, never mentioned Noah or Derek or her surgical career. She existed entirely in the present, like someone who'd learned that looking backward was too painful. Julian didn't push. He just showed up every day, made himself useful, made her laugh occasionally with dry observations about bureaucratic nonsense, brought coffee that was better than the clinic's terrible machine could produce. 3 weeks in, they were cleaning up after a particularly difficult day when Maya said, almost to herself, "You're different than most volunteers. Most people do this to feel good about themselves. You do it like you actually care." "I do care." Julian was putting away supplies, not looking at her. "I think everyone deserves access to healthcare. I think the system's broken. And I think people like you who actually give a damn are the only thing holding it together." Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you want to get coffee sometime? Real coffee, not the disaster we serve here." Julian's heart kicked against his ribs. "I'd like that." They met 2 days later at a small cafe in Shoreditch, sat across from each other in a corner booth and talked for 4 hours. About books, about music, about whether tea was actually better than coffee or if that was just British propaganda. about childhood dreams and what they'd wanted to be when they grew up. Maya had wanted to be a doctor since she was 7, and her mother couldn't afford to take her to a real hospital for a broken arm. A free clinic nurse had said it with such kindness, such care, that Maya decided that's what she wanted to be, someone who helped people no one else would help. Julian told her a version of the truth, that he'd grown up with privilege he didn't earn, that he'd seen how money insulated people from reality, that he wanted to do something meaningful. He just left out the part about being a billionaire CEO. On their second coffee date, Maya mentioned she'd been married once. Didn't work out. And then, so quietly, Julian almost missed it. I had a son. He died. I don't really talk about it. Julian reached across the table and took her hand. You don't have to. I'm sorry. Maya looked at their joined hands like she'd forgotten what comfort felt like. Thank you. They started spending more time together. Long walks through Victoria Park. Dinner at inexpensive restaurants where Maya insisted on splitting the bill. A bookstore in Bloomsbury where they got lost for 3 hours. Simple things. Normal things. Things that had nothing to do with wealth or status or performance. Julian fell in love slowly, then all at once. With the way Maya listened, like your words actually mattered. With her terrible sense of direction. With how she'd tear up during sad movies and pretend she wasn't crying. With her complete lack of pretense or manipulation or games, she was just herself. Broken, healing, genuine, kind. Maya fell in love too, though she fought it. She'd built walls so high after Derek, convinced herself she was better off alone. But Julian was patient. He never pushed, never demanded, never made her feel like she owed him anything. 4 months into dating, they were walking through Hyde Park when Maya stopped suddenly. I need to tell you something. About my son. About what happened. Julian stopped walking. Okay. And Maya told him everything. The birthday party. The mass casualty incident. The choice she made. Noah dying while she was in surgery. Derek's blame. The divorce. The headlines. Losing her career. The 2 years of rebuilding herself from absolute nothing. She cried while she told it, standing in the middle of Hyde Park on a sunny afternoon, and Julian held her and let her cry and didn't say anything, because what could you say to pain that big? When she finally stopped crying, Maya pulled back and looked at him. So now you know. I'm the doctor who chose wrong. I'm broken. I have nightmares. I'm in therapy. I'm on medication. And I understand if this is too much. Julian wiped tears from her face with his thumbs. You didn't choose wrong, Maya. You made an impossible choice that no one should ever have to make. You saved a life while losing the person you loved most. That's not failure. That's the definition of a hero. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a mother who wasn't there when her son died. I know. Julian's voice was thick. But what happened to Noah wasn't your fault. It was a terrible, tragic accident, and your ex-husband was wrong to blame you. He was grieving, but he was wrong. How can you be so sure? Because I know you. I've watched you work. I've seen how much you care. You're not heartless or selfish or any of the things he said. You're the most compassionate person I've ever met. Maya searched his face. Why are you so kind to me? Because you deserve kindness. Julian meant it with everything in him. You've been punished enough for something that wasn't your fault. You deserve someone who sees you clearly and loves what they see. Maya kissed him then, right there in Hyde Park with joggers passing by and children playing nearby. Kissed him like he was oxygen and she'd been drowning. When they pulled apart, Julian said what he'd been wanting to say for weeks. I love you, Maya. Maya looked terrified and hopeful at the same time. I love you too. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I do. They moved in together a month later. Not to Julian's real apartment, the penthouse in Knightsbridge that overlooked Hyde Park, but to the modest 2-bedroom flat in Islington he'd been renting as Julian Hart. It was small, simple, normal. Everything Maya needed. She never asked about money. Never questioned why Julian seemed comfortable but not wealthy. Never pushed for details about his family or his background. She just accepted him as he was, which made Julian feel guilty. Because he was lying to her, not about his feelings, Those were completely real. But about everything else, he told himself he'd tell her the truth eventually. Once she trusted him completely, once she understood that his love had nothing to do with wealth or obligation, once she was strong enough to handle it. But weeks turned into months, and the lie grew bigger. 5 months into their relationship, Julian took Maya to dinner at a small Italian restaurant in Camden. After dessert, he got down on one knee right there in the restaurant with other diners watching. "Maya Torres, you are the strongest, kindest, most extraordinary person I've ever known. I know we haven't been together that long. I know you're still healing, but I also know I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy. Will you marry me?" The ring was modest. White gold, small diamond, nothing that would raise questions about money. Everything designed to fit the life of Julian Hart, nonprofit coordinator. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Yes, oh my God, yes. They got married 3 weeks later at a small courthouse ceremony. Maya wore a simple cream dress she bought off the rack. Julian wore a dark suit. There were 8 people present. Maya's mother, who cried the entire time, 2 friends from the clinic, and Julian's family, who'd agreed to attend as a favor to Julian, but looked deeply uncomfortable in the courthouse setting. Julian introduced them as his parents and sister. Didn't mention that his father, Lawrence Harrington, was one of Britain's wealthiest men, that his mother, Catherine, sat on 5 corporate boards, that his sister, Adriana, ran the family's charitable foundation. Maya shook their hands politely, noticed their expensive clothes and jewelry, and assumed they were just well off. Not billionaires, not the kind of wealthy that owned buildings and companies and politicians. The ceremony was short. The officiant read standard vows. Julian slipped a simple gold band on Maya's finger and said, "I do," with absolute certainty. Maya said "I do" and meant it with her whole heart. They were married. Husband and wife. Mr. and Mrs. Hart. Except Julian's last name wasn't Hart, and he wasn't a nonprofit coordinator, and the modest life he'd built with Maya was completely fake. But his love was real. That was the one true thing in all the lies. They honeymooned at a cabin in the Cotswolds that Julian said he'd borrowed from a friend. It was actually owned by the Harrington family, one of several properties they kept. But Maya didn't know that. She just knew it was beautiful and quiet and perfect. They spent a week hiking, cooking simple meals, talking about the future. Maya wanted to maybe go back to school, get certified in family practice, work with underserved communities long term. Julian encouraged her, supported her, loved watching her make plans for a future she was excited about. On their last night, lying in bed watching stars through the skylight, Maya said, "I didn't think I'd ever be this happy again. After Noah, after everything, I thought that part of my life was over. But you gave it back to me." Julian held her tighter. "You gave it back to yourself. I just showed up." "No." Maya turned to look at him. "You showed up consistently. You were patient. You never made me feel broken or damaged. You just loved me. That's everything." Julian kissed her forehead, guilt eating at him. "I need to tell you something." Maya tensed slightly. "Okay." But Julian chickened out. Changed what he was going to say. "I just want you to know that no matter what happens, my love for you is real. That's never been a lie." Maya relaxed. "I know. I love you too." Julian told himself he'd tell her the truth soon. He would. He just needed the right moment. But then, 6 weeks after they got married, Maya came home from the clinic looking pale and shaky. Julian was in the kitchen making dinner when she walked in and just stood there, staring at him. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Maya's hands were shaking. She reached into her bag and pulled out a white plastic stick, set it on the counter between them. Julian looked down at it, saw the 2 pink lines, looked back up at Maya's terrified face. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. Julian's mind went completely blank, then exploded with 1,000 thoughts at once. Joy. Fear. "This is real. This is happening. We're going to have a baby." "Maya." He moved toward her. She stepped back. "The doctors told me I probably couldn't get pregnant again. After Noah, after the trauma, they said my chances were less than 8%. I've been on birth control because I didn't want to even think about it." But I missed a few pills when we were at the cabin and I didn't think it mattered because I thought I couldn't. Maya, it's okay. It's not okay. Maya's voice rose. I can't do this again. I can't carry a baby and lose it. I can't be a mother again and fail. I can't. You didn't fail. Julian crossed the distance between them and took her shoulders gently. What happened to Noah was not your fault. And this baby, this pregnancy, this is different. You don't understand. Maya was crying now. I'm terrified. I'm so scared I can't breathe. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose this baby too? What if I'm not strong enough? Then we'll get through it together. Julian pulled her close. Whatever happens, you're not alone. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Maya cried against his chest for a long time. When she finally stopped, she pulled back and looked at him with red, swollen eyes. I want to keep it. I'm terrified, but I want to try. Then we'll try. Julian wiped her tears. We'll go to every appointment. We'll do everything right. And whatever happens, we face it together. They went to the doctor 2 days later. A small clinic in East London where Maya had connections. The ultrasound showed a tiny blob, barely visible, but there. 6 weeks along, heartbeat strong. The doctor, an older woman named Dr. Patel who knew Maya's history, was cautiously optimistic. Given your previous trauma, we'll monitor you closely. Weekly ultrasounds for the first trimester. But Maya, your body has healed. This is possible. Maya stared at the screen showing that tiny flickering heartbeat and cried. Happy tears this time. Hopeful tears. Julian held her hand and made a silent promise to that tiny blob on the screen. I'll protect you. I'll protect your mother, whatever it takes. The first trimester was terrifying. Maya was convinced every cramp meant miscarriage. Every bout of nausea was both reassuring and awful. She couldn't sleep, could barely eat, lived in a constant state of anxiety. Julian worked from home as much as possible, which was easy since his real job was running an empire, not coordinating non-profit programs. He brought Maya crackers and ginger tea, went to every appointment, held her while she cried from fear and hormones and trauma resurfacing. At 12 weeks, the ultrasound showed a baby that looked like a baby, arms and legs and a head, still tiny, but real. The risk of miscarriage dropped significantly. Maya started to believe it might actually happen. At 16 weeks, they found out they were having a girl. Maya cried for an hour. Not sad tears, overwhelmed tears. A daughter. She was going to have a daughter. They started talking about names. Maya liked Hope. Julian loved it. Hope Hart, a name that meant exactly what this baby represented. At 20 weeks, halfway through, Maya's belly started showing. She bought maternity clothes from charity shops, refused to let Julian buy her anything expensive. They were living on her clinic salary and Julian's supposed nonprofit income. Money was tight, but they were managing. Julian wanted to tell her the truth so badly, wanted to give her the best doctors, the best hospital, every comfort, but he was terrified. Terrified she'd feel betrayed, terrified she'd leave, terrified he'd lose her right when everything was finally good. So he stayed silent, kept lying, kept being Julian Hart. At 22 weeks, Maya felt the baby kick for the first time. She grabbed Julian's hand and pressed it to her belly. Do you feel that? Julian felt the tiny flutter against his palm and felt his eyes water. I feel it. That's our daughter. Our daughter. Maya smiled, radiant. We made a person. We made a person. Julian kissed her. This woman who'd survived so much, who was brave enough to try again, who trusted him completely. He didn't deserve her trust, but he loved her anyway. At 5 months pregnant, Maya was glowing. The fear had lessened slightly. She was still anxious, still had nightmares, still went to therapy twice a week, but she was also happy. Cautiously, carefully happy. She decided to visit her mother in her old neighborhood, the area where she'd grown up, where she'd lived before Derek, before Noah, before everything fell apart. Julian offered to come with her. Maya kissed him and said, No, I need to do this alone. Just a quick visit. Pick up some things my mum's been saving. I'll be home for dinner. Julian was in a board meeting, his real board meeting at Harrington Global Headquarters, when his phone buzzed with Maya's location alert. He'd set it up months ago, not to track her, but so he'd know she was safe. She'd agreed to it because she thought it was sweet that he worried. The alert showed she was in her old neighborhood. Then it showed she'd stopped at a Tesco. Normal. Fine. Julian went back to the meeting, half listening to quarterly reports while thinking about the nursery he wanted to set up. The one he'd create in their real home once he finally told Maya the truth. His phone rang 40 minutes later. Maya's number. He answered immediately, stepping out of the boardroom. "Hey, love. How's it going?" Maya's voice was shaking, broken. "Can you please come get me? Something happened." Julian's blood went cold. "Where are you? Are you hurt? Is the baby okay?" "I don't know. I'm at the corner of Merchant and Fifth. Please just come." "I'm coming. Stay there. I'm coming right now." Julian ran. Actually ran through the Harrington Global building, his security team scrambling to follow. He didn't explain, just shouted for his car, for his full security detail, for someone to get him to Merchant and Fifth immediately. The drive took 15 minutes through London traffic. 15 minutes where Julian's mind created 1,000 terrible scenarios. Accident. Assault. Miscarriage. Something wrong with the baby. They turned onto Merchant Street, and Julian saw her immediately. Maya was standing on the corner, soaked head to toe in filthy water that stained her clothes, dripped from her hair, covered her pregnant belly. Her hands were pressed protectively over her stomach. Her face was streaked with tears and dirt. People were staring. Some had phones out. Julian was out of the car before it fully stopped. He crossed the distance in seconds, shrugging out of his suit jacket as he moved, wrapped it around Maya's shoulders. It was his work jacket. Expensive, tailored, the kind of thing Julian Hart, nonprofit coordinator, would never own. But Julian wasn't thinking about maintaining his cover anymore. He was thinking about Maya, shaking and crying and covered in filth. Who did this? His voice came out harder than he intended. "My ex-husband." Maya's voice was so small, so broken. "Derek. He saw me shopping, and he drove through the puddle on purpose, and then he said," she couldn't finish, just started crying harder. "What did he say?" Maya looked up at him with devastated eyes. "That I'll kill this baby too, that I'm defective, that Noah would be ashamed of me, that I'm poor and pathetic and I haven't changed at all." Julian's vision went red. Actual rage, the kind he'd never felt before, flooded through him. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Is that Julian Harrington?" Julian ignored them. Pulled Maya closer. "Let me get you home, then we'll deal with this." He guided her toward the car, and that's when Maya seemed to actually see it. The black Mercedes with government plates. The security team in matching suits with earpieces. The way people on the street were taking photos, not of her humiliation anymore, but of them. "Julian, what is this? Why do you have security? Why did that person call you Harrington?" Julian's stomach dropped. "Not like this." He didn't want her to find out like this. "Let's get you home first. Please." "No." Maya pulled away from him. "Tell me right now. Who are you?" Julian met her eyes. "My name is Julian Harrington. I'm the CEO of Harrington Global Industries, and I'm so sorry I lied to you." Maya stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "What?" "I'm not a nonprofit coordinator. I'm not poor. My family is worth almost 15 billion pounds, and I've been lying to you since the day we met." The shock on Maya's face turned to betrayal. "Why?" "Because I needed you to love me for me. Not for my money. Not for what I could give you. Just me. So our entire relationship is based on a lie." "No." Julian reached for her. "My love is real. Everything I feel for you is real. The only lie was my name and my job. Those are pretty significant lies, Julian." Maya's voice was shaking with anger now, cutting through the shock. "You let me worry about money. You let me buy second-hand maternity clothes because I thought we couldn't afford better. You let me feel guilty about spending money while you're a billionaire? I know. I'm sorry. I was going to tell you. I've been trying to tell you." "When?" Maya demanded. "When were you going to tell me? After the baby was born? After another year of lies? Now." Julian's voice broke. I'm telling you now. Only because you got caught. Maya looked at the security team, the expensive car, the crowd filming everything. You would have kept lying if Derek hadn't forced your hand. That's not true, isn't it? Julian didn't have an answer. Because maybe it was true. Maybe he would have kept lying indefinitely because the lie was easier than risking the truth. Take me home. Maya's voice was cold now. Shut down. Not to your real home, to our apartment. And then I need you to leave me alone for a while. Maya, please. Julian helped her into the car, his heart breaking. The drive back to their Islington apartment was silent. Maya stared out the window, one hand on her belly, shutting him out completely. When they arrived, Maya went straight to the bathroom. Julian heard the shower running, heard her crying. He wanted to go to her. But he'd lost that right. His phone was exploding with notifications. The video had already gone viral. Billionaire's wife, humiliated by ex-husband. 8 million views and climbing. His head of security, James, appeared at the door. Sir, we need to discuss response protocol. The video is everywhere. Your identity is confirmed. Mrs. Harrington's identity is confirmed. The man who did this has been identified as Derek Ashford. Pull everything on Ashford. Julian's voice was cold. Business holdings, financials, contracts, everything. I want to know every vulnerability. Sir, perhaps we should wait until you've spoken with Mrs. Harrington. She doesn't want revenge. Julian looked toward the bathroom where Maya was still crying. But I do. Find me everything, sir. And James? Schedule an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow morning, I'm making an announcement. What kind of announcement? The truth, all of it. Maya came out of the bathroom an hour later, wearing clean clothes, her hair still damp. She looked exhausted, fragile, like one more blow would shatter her completely. Is the baby okay? Julian asked quietly. I think so. She's moving. Maya's hand rested on her belly. I need to see Dr. Patel tomorrow. I'll take you. No. Maya's voice was firm. I need space, Julian. I need to process this. All of this. Derek, the humiliation, your lies, everything, and I can't do that with you here. Julian felt panic rising. I can stay somewhere else. A hotel, my real apartment, wherever you want. But please don't shut me out. Maya's eyes filled with tears again. You lied to me for 6 months. You married me under a false name. You let me believe we were building a life together when you were just playing pretend. I wasn't playing pretend. My feelings were never fake. But everything else was. Maya's voice broke. Julian didn't have an answer, because she was right. He'd destroyed her trust, and trust, once broken, was almost impossible to rebuild. I'll go. He grabbed his keys. But Maya, please believe me. I love you. I love our daughter. That's real. That's the only thing that's real. Maya didn't respond. Just stood there, hands on her belly, tears running down her face. Julian left, walked out of their apartment, their modest fake life, and climbed into a car that cost more than most people made in 5 years. And he knew he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. Julian went to his real home that night. The penthouse in Knightsbridge, 15,000 square feet of marble and glass and money. It felt like a museum, cold, empty. Nothing like the small Islington apartment where he'd been truly happy for the first time in his life. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Hyde Park and called his father. Lawrence Harrington answered on the second ring. I've seen the video. I assume you're calling to discuss damage control. I'm calling to tell you I'm going public, tomorrow, with everything. Julian, think carefully about this. Your mother and I have maintained certain boundaries between our family and the media for decades. If you expose yourself this way, if you tell the world about your marriage, about the circumstances, you'll invite scrutiny we've carefully avoided. I don't care. Julian's voice was flat. Maya was publicly humiliated by a man who spent years destroying her reputation. She was attacked while pregnant with my child. And it happened because I was too much of a coward to tell her the truth about who I am. So now I'm telling everyone. And what exactly do you plan to say? The truth. That I fell in love with the doctor who saved my life. that I married her, that she's carrying my child, that anyone who harms her will answer to me. Lawrence was quiet for a long moment. You love her that much? I love her more than that. Julian's voice broke. And I've lost her because I lied. So the least I can do is make sure the world knows who she really is. Not the headlines. Not the version her ex-husband created. The truth. Then I'll support you. Lawrence's voice softened. Your mother and I will be there tomorrow. And Julian, for what it's worth, I've never heard you sound like this about anyone. She must be remarkable. She is. Julian wiped his eyes. She's everything. Then fight for her. But son, be prepared. Once you go public, there's no going back. Your life changes. Her life changes. Everything changes. It already changed. The moment Derek Ashford threw dirty water at my pregnant wife, everything changed. Julian hung up and called James. I need you to do something for me. Sir, find every piece of footage from today, every angle. I want to see exactly what happened, and I want Derek Ashford's full file on my desk in 2 hours. Already done, sir. Sending it now. Julian opened his laptop and watched the videos. There were 7 different angles. Cell phone footage from bystanders. Security camera footage James had already obtained. Each one showed the same thing. Maya standing on a street corner, pregnant, holding grocery bags, one hand resting protectively on her belly. Looking tired but peaceful. Normal. Derek's Maserati accelerating toward a massive puddle. The explosion of filthy water. The impact hitting Maya so hard she stumbled. Her face, the shock and pain and immediate fear for her baby. Then Derek's window rolling down. His face, smiling, cruel, Crystal beside him, laughing. Julian turned the sound on. Heard Derek's voice. Oh my God. Maya, is that really you? Still shopping at discount stores. Still looking like the failure I left behind. Julian's hands clenched into fists. Wait. Are you actually pregnant? Maya's silence, her shaking hands on her belly. Some desperate fool actually got you pregnant. Does he know you're defective, Maya? Does he know you're the doctor who killed her own kid? Julian stood up, pacing, rage coursing through him. We both know your body couldn't protect Noah, so what makes you think you can protect that baby? You'll probably kill this one too. Julian had to pause the video. Had to breathe. Had to resist the urge to find Derek Ashford right now and make him regret every word. He forced himself to keep watching. I'm glad Noah isn't here to see what you've become. At least he's spared the embarrassment of having you as a mother. Then the Maserati driving away. Maya standing there, soaked, broken, crying. People filming instead of helping. Julian watched all 7 angles, memorized every word, every expression on Derek's face, every moment of Maya's pain. Then, he opened Derek Ashford's file. Ashford Development Corporation. Founded 6 years ago. Current valuation, £83 million. 12 active development projects totaling $187 million in contracts. Financed through a combination of private investment and bank loans. Julian kept reading. Primary concrete supplier, Cornerstone Materials. Owned by a subsidiary of Harrington Global. Primary steel supplier, Metropolitan Steel Works. Financed through Harrington Capital. Construction crews, Union Local 247. Pension fund, managed by Harrington Financial. Banking, Morrison & Lloyd. Harrington Global held 38% of their commercial debt. Every single piece of Derek Ashford's business empire was connected to Harrington Global in some way. Derek just didn't know it. Julian made a call. James, I need you to contact every vendor, every supplier, every financial institution connected to Ashford Development. I want them to know that Harrington Global is watching this situation very carefully. Sir, that could be interpreted as retaliation. That's exactly what it is. Julian's voice was cold. But make it subtle. No direct threats. Just let them know we're aware of their business relationships with Mr. Ashford. Let them draw their own conclusions. Understood, sir. And James? Start a full forensic audit on Ashford Development. Look for anything questionable. Tax irregularities, safety violations, permit issues, anything. Sir, that's quite aggressive. He called my wife defective. He told her she'd kill our baby. He humiliated her while she's 5 months pregnant. Julian's voice was steel. I'm being restrained. I'll start immediately. Julian spent the rest of the night preparing for the board meeting, writing his statement, deciding exactly what to say and how to say it, planning the press conference that would follow. At 3 a.m, his phone rang. Maya's number. He answered before the first ring finished. Maya, are you okay? Is the baby okay? Maya's voice was thick with tears. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see Derek's face. I hear his voice. And I can't stop thinking about Noah. Where are you? I'll come right now. No, I just needed to hear your voice. Even though I'm angry at you, even though you lied, I needed to know you're real. I'm real. Julian's heart was breaking, and I'm so sorry. For lying. For not telling you sooner. For every moment of pain I've caused you. Why did you lie, Julian? Really? Not the explanation you gave me earlier, the real reason. Julian sat down, closed his eyes. Because I've spent my entire life with people wanting things from me. My name, my money, my connections. I've had relationships where I couldn't tell if someone loved me or loved what I could give them. And when I met you, when you looked at me like I was just a person, not a commodity, it felt like breathing for the first time. So you lied. So I lied. And I was wrong. I know that now. I should have trusted you, should have believed you'd love me anyway, but I was scared. Of what? Of losing you. Julian's voice cracked. Of you looking at me differently, of everything changing. Everything did change. Maya was crying now. But not because of your money, because of your lies. I could have handled you being rich. I can't handle you not trusting me enough to tell me the truth. I know. I'm so sorry. They were both quiet for a moment. Then Maya said, I saw my doctor, Dr. Patel. The baby's fine. Perfect heartbeat. No signs of stress. Julian exhaled relief. Thank God. But Dr. Patel is worried about me. My blood pressure is elevated. She said I need to avoid stress. And Julian, I don't know how to avoid stress when my ex-husband just publicly humiliated me and my husband has been lying to me for 6 months. Tell me what you need. Anything. I need time. I need space to process everything. And I need you to be honest with me. Completely honest. No more lies. No more omissions. If we have any chance of fixing this, I need the whole truth. I'll tell you everything, Julian promised. Every detail. Every reason. Everything. Okay. Maya's voice was small. I should try to sleep. Maya, wait. There's something I need to tell you. Something that's happening tomorrow. What? I'm holding a press conference. I'm going public with our marriage. With the pregnancy. With what Derek did to you. Julian, no. Maya sounded panicked. I don't want to be in the news again. I don't want people talking about me, judging me, bringing up Noah. They're already talking. The video has 12 million views. Your name is trending. Derek made this public. I'm just controlling the narrative. By exposing our private life? By telling the truth. Julian's voice was firm. Derek has controlled your story for 3 years. He's painted you as a heartless doctor who chose wrong. And the world believed him because you were too hurt to fight back. But I'm not too hurt. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows who you really are. And who am I, according to you? A hero. A survivor. The woman who made an impossible choice and saved my life. The woman who's been punished for having integrity. The woman I love more than anything. Maya was crying again. I don't feel like a hero. I know. But you are. And tomorrow, the world is going to know it too. What if they don't believe you? What if they think I'm just some gold digger who trapped a billionaire? Then they're wrong. And I'll spend every day proving them wrong. Maya was quiet. Then she said, do what you need to do. But Julian, after this, after you tell the world, we still need to figure out us. The press conference doesn't fix the lies. I know. I'm not trying to fix it with a grand gesture. I'm trying to protect you the only way I know how. Okay. Maya's voice was exhausted. I'm going to try to sleep. Good night, Julian. Good night, Maya. I love you. She hung up without saying it back. Julian didn't sleep, just sat at his desk, refining his statement, preparing for the storm he was about to unleash. The board meeting started at 8 in the morning. 23 board members, all powerful, all wealthy, all used to control and discretion. They sat around the massive mahogany table in the Harrington Global boardroom and waited for Julian to explain why he'd called an emergency meeting. Julian stood at the head of the table. Didn't sit. Needed to be standing for this. I'm sure you've all seen the video that went viral yesterday. A pregnant woman being humiliated by her ex-husband. Dirty water thrown at her while she was shopping. Cruel words designed to destroy her. Several board members nodded. One said, "Tragic situation. Very unfortunate. That woman is my wife." Julian's voice was clear, firm. "Dr. Maya Harrington. We've been married for 3 months. She's 5 months pregnant with my daughter. And yesterday, her abusive ex-husband publicly attacked her." The room erupted. Questions, exclamations, shock. Julian held up his hand. "There's more you need to know. I met Maya 2 years ago. She was the surgeon who saved my life after the motorway accident. Some of you remember I was in a coma for 3 days. I had a 12% survival rate. Dr. Maya Torres performed a 7-hour surgery that saved my life." He paused, letting that sink in. "What you don't know is what that surgery cost her. While Maya was saving my life, her 4-year-old son drowned at his birthday party. She made the choice to finish my surgery instead of leaving to be with her dying child. She made the choice every doctor is trained to make. Save the life in front of you." The room was completely silent now. Her husband, Derek Ashford, blamed her, publicly, destroyed her reputation, forced her out of her surgical career, painted her as a heartless mother who chose wrong. And for 3 years, Maya has lived with that label, with that shame, with the belief that she was somehow responsible for her son's death. Julian's voice got harder. Yesterday, Derek Ashford saw his ex-wife, pregnant and vulnerable, and decided to humiliate her, to attack her, to tell her she'd kill another child. And he did it in public, on camera, for everyone to see. One of the board members, an older woman named Victoria, spoke up. "And what do you plan to do about it?" "I plan to tell the truth." Julian met her eyes. "At noon today, I'm holding a press conference. I'm going to announce my marriage, introduce Maya as my wife, explain exactly what happened 2 years ago and what happened yesterday. And I'm going to make it very clear that Maya is under my protection." Another board member, Robert, frowned. "Julian, I understand you're upset, but publicly involving yourself in a domestic dispute could reflect poorly on the company. Perhaps a more measured approach." "This isn't a domestic dispute." Julian's voice was ice. "This is a powerful man abusing his ex-wife because he knows she has no one to defend her. Except she does have someone. She has me, and I will not be measured about protecting my family." Victoria smiled slightly. "Good." Julian looked around the table. "I need you to understand that Derek Ashford's business is connected to Harrington Global in multiple ways. Suppliers, financing, construction contracts. I'm not asking for permission to take action. I'm informing you that action will be taken." "What kind of action?" Robert asked carefully. "Strategic." Julian's smile was sharp, legal, but definitive. "Mr. Ashford will learn that there are consequences for his cruelty." The board voted. 18 in favor of supporting Julian, 5 abstentions, 0 opposed. At noon, Julian stood in front of 30 reporters in the Harrington Global Headquarters press room, cameras flashing, microphones everywhere, questions being shouted before he even started speaking. He held up his hand for silence. "Thank you all for coming. I have a statement to make, and then I'll take a few questions." The room quieted. Yesterday, a video went viral showing a pregnant woman being attacked by her ex-husband. "That woman is Dr. Maya Harrington, my wife. We've been married for 3 months. She's 5 months pregnant with our daughter. And what happened to her yesterday was unconscionable." Camera flashes intensified. Reporters started shouting questions. Julian ignored them. What the video doesn't show is context. Maya's story. 2 years ago, I was in a catastrophic motorway accident. Multiple trauma. 12% survival rate. Dr. Maya Torres, as she was known then, was the trauma surgeon who saved my life. She performed a surgery that took 7 hours. She refused to give up on me when other doctors said I wouldn't make it. He paused, emotion thick in his throat. What Maya didn't know was that while she was saving my life, her 4-year-old son was drowning at his birthday party. She received the news in the middle of my surgery. She had a choice: leave me to die and be with her son, or finish the surgery and save a stranger. The room was completely silent now, every reporter leaning forward. She chose to save me, and her son died while she was in surgery. Maya made an impossible choice, the kind of choice no parent should ever have to make. And for that choice, for her integrity, for her commitment to her oath as a physician, she was punished. Julian's voice got harder. Her ex-husband blamed her publicly, destroyed her career, forced her out of surgery, told everyone she was a heartless mother who chose wrong. The media ran headlines calling her the doctor who failed, and Maya, grieving and traumatized, had no one to defend her. He looked directly at the cameras. Until now. I want to be absolutely clear. Maya didn't choose wrong. She made the only choice a doctor in that situation could make. She saved a life. My life. And I've spent 2 years trying to find a way to thank her for that sacrifice. A reporter shouted, "Is that why you married her? Out of gratitude?" No. Julian's voice softened. I married her because I fell in love with her. Because she's the most compassionate, brave, extraordinary person I've ever known. Because when I met her again 2 years after the accident, she had rebuilt her life from nothing and was working at a free clinic, helping people no one else would help. I married her because she's remarkable. Another reporter. But you hid your identity from her. Why? Because I wanted her to love me for who I am, not what I have, Julian admitted. And yes, that was a mistake. I should have been honest from the beginning. But my love for her is real. My commitment to her is real. And my promise to protect her is real. What do you say to Derek Ashford? A reporter called out. Julian's expression went cold. I say this. You humiliated a pregnant woman in public. You attacked someone who's already been through more pain than you can imagine. You threw dirty water at my wife and told her she'd kill our child. And there will be consequences for that. What kind of consequences? The kind that come when you attack someone under my protection. Julian's smile was razor sharp. Mr. Ashford will find that his business relationships are being reevaluated. That contracts are being reviewed. That the empire he built on sympathy and lies is not as stable as he believed. The press conference lasted 45 minutes. Julian answered every question about Maya's history, about their relationship, about the pregnancy. He showed photos, their courthouse wedding, Maya volunteering at the clinic, a recent ultrasound image of their daughter. He made Maya real, not a headline, not a villain, a person. The story exploded across every news outlet. Billionaire CEO defends wife who saved his life. The doctor who made an impossible choice. Maya's redemption. Public opinion shifted in hours. Comments on the original humiliation video changed from judgment to support. She saved his life and lost her son. That's not failure. That's heroism. Derek Ashford is a monster for what he said to her. This woman has been through enough. Leave her alone. But Maya didn't see any of it. She'd turned off her phone, stayed in the apartment, avoided the news. She was sitting in the nursery they'd started decorating, hands on her belly, feeling hope kick, trying to process everything. Her phone finally rang. Not Julian, her mother. Mija, are you watching the news? No, I can't. Maya's voice was tired. Julian just told the whole world what happened. About Noah. About the surgery. About Derek. Maya. Everyone knows the truth now. I don't know if I want everyone to know. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be a story. You're not a story. You're my daughter, and you're a hero. Her mother's voice was fierce. And that man, your husband, he loves you. The way he talked about you. Mija, that's real love. He lied to me, Mama. He did, and that was wrong. But he also just stood in front of the world and defended you, protected you, made sure everyone knows who you really are. Maya started crying. I don't know what to do. I love him, but I don't know if I can trust him. Then you take time. You figure it out. But Maya, don't punish yourself anymore. You've carried enough guilt. Let it go. After they hung up, Maya finally turned on her phone. It exploded with messages. Friends from medical school, former colleagues, patients from the clinic, all of them supportive, all of them kind. And one message from an unknown number. Dr. Torres, this is Dr. Rashid from Royal Victoria. I was the attending the night of your son's accident. I never got to tell you this, but you made the right choice. You saved Julian Harrington's life when no one else could. Your integrity that night, your commitment to your oath, that's what makes you an extraordinary physician. I'm sorry for everything you've endured. You deserved better. Maya read it 3 times, cried, and felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. Meanwhile, Derek Ashford was watching his life implode in real time. It started with a phone call from Cornerstone Materials. Mr. Ashford, we're experiencing supply shortages. We won't be able to fulfill your concrete order for the Riverside project. Derek frowned. What do you mean? We have a contract. We're invoking the force majeure clause. Unforeseen circumstances. We'll refund your deposit. 3 hours later, Metropolitan Steel Works called. Similar message. Can't fulfill orders. Contractual issues. So sorry. By the end of the day, 4 of Derek's 12 projects had lost critical suppliers. His CFO called an emergency meeting. Derek, something's happening. Every vendor connected to Harrington Global is pulling out or renegotiating terms. It's coordinated. Derek's stomach dropped. Harrington. Julian Harrington. Maya's husband. His lawyer called the next morning. Derek, we have a problem. The city is reviewing permits for 8 of your properties. There's been complaints about safety violations, zoning issues, environmental concerns. This is unusual. All at once like this. Someone's targeting me. It appears so. Then the banks called. Morrison and Lloyd requesting an immediate meeting to discuss loan terms. 3 other lenders sending similar messages. All within 24 hours, Derek's board called an emergency session. The investors were panicking. Projects halted, suppliers gone, banks circling, stock price dropping. What did you do? One investor demanded. I didn't do anything. Derek was sweating now. This is retaliation. Julian Harrington is coming after me because of Maya. Because you threw dirty water at his pregnant wife and told her she'd kill her baby. Another board member's voice was disgusted. We saw the video, Derek. We all saw it. That was between me and my ex-wife. Your ex-wife is married to one of the most powerful men in Britain, and you attacked her on camera. The investor stood up. I'm pulling my funding. I will not be associated with this. 2 more investors followed. Within 72 hours, Derek lost $63 million in backing. 8 projects were halted indefinitely. His company's valuation dropped 47%. Crystal called him crying. Derek, I can't do this. The media is outside my apartment. People are sending me death threats. I'm done. She left him for a hedge fund manager within the week. Derek sat alone in his office, watching his empire crumble, and finally understood. He'd destroyed Maya 3 years ago with words and blame and public humiliation. Now Julian was destroying him the same way, publicly, systematically, thoroughly. But there was one difference. Maya had been innocent. Derek was not. The forensic audit Julian ordered found irregularities, safety violations covered up, permits obtained through bribes, tax evasion schemes, small things Derek thought no one would ever look for. But Julian looked, and Julian found everything. Criminal investigations opened. The media picked up the story. Derek Ashford, the man who'd publicly attacked a pregnant woman, was now being investigated for fraud, bribery, corruption. Everything he'd built, everything he'd used Noah's death to create, all the sympathy he'd manipulated, it all came crashing down. 3 weeks after the humiliation, Derek's lawyer called with the final blow. Derek, the company's filing for bankruptcy. The board voted. It's over. Derek hung up and just sat there, in his expensive office that would be seized within the month. alone, destroyed. He picked up his phone and did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He looked at photos of Noah, his beautiful son, the child he'd failed to watch closely enough, the child who drowned while Derek was inside getting more food, not paying attention. The child whose death was actually Derek's fault, not Maya's, Derek's. He'd been the parent home, he'd been responsible, he'd been distracted, and Noah had died. But it was easier to blame Maya, easier to make her the villain, easier to destroy her than to face his own guilt. Derek started crying. Real tears, grief he'd never properly processed, guilt he'd never acknowledged. He'd destroyed Maya to avoid destroying himself. And now he'd lost everything anyway. Maya was in the apartment when her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Julian had been respecting her request for space, only texting once a day to check if she and the baby were okay. She opened the door to find Lawrence and Catherine Harrington standing in the hallway. Julian's parents, the people she'd met briefly at her courthouse wedding and assumed were just well off, not billionaires. Mrs. Harrington, Lawrence's voice was gentle. May we come in? Maya stepped aside, overwhelmed. Of course. They sat in her small living room. Catherine looked around at the modest apartment, the second-hand furniture, and her eyes filled with tears. You really didn't know, Catherine said softly. You truly had no idea who Julian was. No. Maya's voice was quiet. I thought I married a non-profit coordinator who made $40,000 a year. I thought we were building a simple, normal life. Julian loves you very much. Lawrence leaned forward. I've never seen my son like this. He's always been driven, successful, controlled. But with you, he's human, vulnerable, real. He lied to me. Maya felt tears rising. For 6 months, he did. Catherine reached over and took Maya's hand. And that was wrong. But Maya, I need you to understand something. Julian has spent his entire life with people wanting things from him, using him, seeing him as a bank account, or a connection, or a stepping stone. He's had relationships that fell apart the moment the novelty of wealth wore off. So he tested me. Maya pulled her hand back. He married me under false pretenses to see if I'd love him without money. No, Lawrence's voice was firm. He married you because he fell in love. The deception was wrong, but the love was real. How can I trust that? Because we've seen it. Catherine's eyes were earnest. We've watched our son for 3 months talking about you constantly. Your ideas, your compassion, your strength. He doesn't talk about what you can give him or how you make him look. He talks about who you are. That's not someone running a test. That's someone genuinely in love. Maya wanted to believe them. But the hurt was still too fresh. I need time, she said finally. I need to figure out if I can forgive this, if we can build something real from a foundation of lies. That's fair. Lawrence stood. But while you're figuring it out, I want you to know something. You're family now. Not because of the baby, not because of Julian, because of who you are. And this family protects its own. Catherine hugged Maya before leaving. You're stronger than you know. You've survived things that would have destroyed most people. Don't let Julian's mistake take away what you've both found. After they left, Maya sat in the quiet apartment and felt hope kicking, strong, insistent kicks. This baby, this miracle she'd been told would never happen, was real, was healthy, was coming whether Maya had her life figured out or not. She pulled out her phone and called Julian. He answered immediately. Maya, is everything okay? Your parents were just here. I didn't send them, I promise. They went on their own. I know, I believe you. Maya took a breath. Julian, I need to see you. We need to talk, really talk. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Come to your real home. The penthouse. I need to see who you really are. Where you really live. All of it. Okay. Julian's voice was careful. I'll send a car. No, give me the address. I'll take the tube. Maya, I need to do this my way. She was firm. Just send me the address. 40 minutes later, Maya stood in front of a building in Knightsbridge that was all glass and steel and obviously expensive. The doorman greeted her by name. Mrs. Harrington, Mr. Harrington is expecting you. Top floor. The elevator was marble and mirrors. Maya watched her reflection. Messy hair, maternity jeans from a charity shop, canvas shoes. She looked exactly like what she was. An ordinary woman walking into extraordinary wealth. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Maya stepped out and just stopped. The space was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Hyde Park. Art that looked like it belonged in museums. Furniture that was all clean lines and expensive fabrics. Everything perfect. Everything cold. Julian was standing by the windows. He'd clearly been waiting, turned the moment the elevator opened. "Hi." His voice was uncertain. "Hi." Maya looked around. "This is where you really live." "Yes. It's beautiful." She walked further in. "And it doesn't look like you at all." Julian smiled sadly. "No, it doesn't. It looks like what people expect. What I'm supposed to want. What do you actually want?" "You." Julian's voice broke. "In that small apartment in Islington where we were happy. Where we cooked dinner together and watched terrible movies and planned for hope. That's what I want." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You should have told me, Julian. Not because of the money. Because marriages are supposed to be built on truth. I know." Julian moved closer but didn't touch her. "I was wrong. And I'm sorry. If I could go back and do it differently, I would. But I can't. So all I can do is promise that from this moment forward, there are no more lies. No more secrets. Complete honesty. Even if it hurts. Even if it destroys me." Maya looked at him. At this man who'd lied but also loved. Who'd protected her when she needed it most. Who'd stood in front of the world and defended her. "I saw your press conference," she said quietly. "I didn't do it to manipulate you. Or to win you back. I did it because Derek needed to be stopped, and because the world needed to know the truth about who you are. And who am I, Julian? The woman who saved my life. The woman who made an impossible choice and has been punished for it every day since. The woman who deserves to be seen as a hero, not a villain." Maya started crying. "I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a mother who wasn't there when her son died." Julian closed the distance between them, took her face in his hands. "Noah's death wasn't your fault. It was a tragic accident. And the choice you made, to save my life, that was the right choice. It was the only choice. How can you say that?" Maya's voice was anguished. "A stranger versus my child. How is that the right choice? Because in that moment, I wasn't a stranger. I was your patient. I was the life in front of you. And you took an oath to save lives. To do everything in your power to not let someone die. You kept that oath." Maya felt something break open inside her, something she'd been holding on to for 3 years. The guilt, the shame, the belief that she was somehow responsible. "I did everything I could." Her voice was shaking. "I tried to save Noah. I called his name. I begged them to let me leave, but the patient would have died, and I couldn't. I couldn't let someone die. I know." Julian was crying now too. "And I'm so sorry you had to make that choice. I'm sorry Noah died. I'm sorry Derek blamed you. I'm sorry the world judged you. You deserved none of it." They stood there, holding each other, crying for different griefs that had somehow brought them together. When Maya finally pulled back, she said, "I need you to understand something. I can forgive the lies, eventually. But if we're going to make this work, if we're going to be a family, I need complete honesty about everything. Anything. Ask me anything. Why didn't you tell me the truth after we got married?" "Because I was terrified." Julian's voice was raw. "Terrified you'd leave. Terrified everything would change. Terrified I'd lose the only real thing I'd ever had. And now? Now I've lost you anyway, and I'd rather have you back with the truth than keep you with lies." Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I don't want to live here, in this penthouse. It's beautiful, but it's not us." Julian smiled through his tears. "Neither do I. But I also can't pretend you're not who you are. You're Julian Harrington, CEO, billionaire. You have responsibilities. I know, so we need to figure out what our life looks like." really looks like. Not pretend middle class. Not isolated wealth. Something real. Something honest. Julian took her hand. Then let's figure it out together. What about Derek? Maya asked. I heard what you did. The business destruction, the investigations. I won't apologize for protecting you. I'm not asking you to. Maya's voice was soft. But I need to know, is he destroyed? Completely? His company's bankrupt. He's under criminal investigation. He's lost everything. Good. Maya's voice was hard. Then she caught herself. Is that wrong? To be glad he's suffering? No. Julian squeezed her hand. It's human. He hurt you. For years. He deserves consequences. I don't want to be the kind of person who celebrates someone's destruction. You're not. You're the kind of person who's finally seeing justice after years of injustice. There's a difference. Maya nodded slowly. There's something I need to do. Something I've been avoiding. What? I need to see Derek. One last time. I need to say things I never got to say. Maya, I don't think that's a good idea. He's volatile. He's lost everything. Which is why I need security with me. And why you need to trust me to do this. Julian wanted to argue, but he promised honesty, truth, trust. Okay, but I'm coming with you, and security stays close. 2 days later, Derek received a message from Maya's lawyer. Dr. Harrington would like to meet with you, one time, to discuss closure. Derek almost didn't respond, but some part of him, the part that was drowning in guilt and grief, needed to see her, needed to apologize, needed to try to make one thing right in the disaster his life had become. They met at a neutral location, a lawyer's office conference room, sterile, professional, safe. Derek arrived first. He looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His expensive suit hung wrong. His face was gaunt, exhausted. When Maya walked in, 5 months pregnant, glowing despite everything, Derek felt like he'd been punched. She sat down across from him. Julian and 2 security personnel stood by the door. Her lawyer sat beside her. Derek. Maya's voice was calm, cold. Maya. Derek couldn't meet her eyes. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. Because I have things I need to say, and you're going to listen. Derek nodded. Maya took a breath. 3 years ago, our son died, and you blamed me. You told everyone I was a heartless doctor who chose work over family. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my entire life, and I believed you. I internalized that blame. I thought I deserved every terrible thing that happened to me. Maya, I'm not finished. Her voice was steel. You used Noah's death to build sympathy for yourself, to start a business, to play the grieving father while making me the villain. And I was so broken, so consumed by guilt, I let you. I was grieving too. You were. Maya's eyes were hard. But you were also the parent home when Noah drowned. You were the one who didn't watch him closely enough. You were the one who left the pool gate unlocked. And instead of facing that guilt, you put it all on me. Derek's face crumbled. I know. I've known for 3 years and I couldn't face it. It was easier to blame you than to admit I failed him. You did fail him. Maya's voice didn't waver. And so did I. We both failed. But the difference is, I've spent 3 years in therapy processing that failure. You spent 3 years weaponizing it. I'm sorry. Derek was crying now. I'm so sorry, Maya. For everything. For blaming you. For destroying you. For the things I said about Noah. I was wrong. About all of it. I know you were. Maya's hands rested on her pregnant belly. But your apology doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't give me back my career or my reputation, or the 3 years I spent believing I deserved to suffer. Derek looked at her belly. Are you happy? With him? With this baby? Yes. Maya's voice softened slightly. Terrified, but happy. Good. You deserve happiness. You always did. Maya stood up. I'm not going to forgive you, Derek. Not today. Maybe not ever. But I am going to stop letting you control my story. I'm going to stop carrying the guilt you put on me. Noah's death was a tragedy, not my failure, and I'm done letting you make me believe otherwise. She turned to leave. Maya, wait. Derek stood too. The baby. Is she okay? After what I did? She's fine. No thanks to you. I truly hope she's healthy. I hope you get the happiness I couldn't give you, and I hope someday you can forgive me. Maya looked at him one last time. I hope someday you can forgive yourself, because Derek, you're the one who has to live with what you've done, not me. Not anymore. She walked out. Julian followed. And Derek sat back down in that conference room and finally, grieved properly for the son he'd lost and the wife he'd destroyed. In the car on the way home, Julian asked, "How do you feel?" "Lighter," Maya said, surprised. "Like I finally put down something I've been carrying too long. You're extraordinary. You know that?" Maya smiled. "I'm learning to believe it." 3 weeks later, Maya and Julian stood in front of a small gathering at Harrington Global's annual charity gala. 200 of Britain's most influential people. Live television coverage. Maya wore an emerald dress that Julian had chosen, that showed her 6-month belly beautifully. Her hair was professionally styled. She wore jewelry that cost more than her mother's house, but she was still herself. Still Maya, just in a different setting. Julian stood at the microphone. "Tonight, I'm honored to introduce my wife to all of you officially. Dr. Maya Harrington." Applause filled the room. Many of you know Maya's story now, how she saved my life 2 years ago, the choice she made, the price she paid. Julian's voice was thick with emotion. But what you don't know is what happened after. How she rebuilt herself from nothing. How she worked at a free clinic serving people no one else would help. How she survived public shame and private grief and came out stronger. He turned to Maya, took her hand. "This woman is carrying our daughter, our miracle." Because Maya was told she'd never be able to have another child after the trauma she endured. But here she is, 5 months pregnant, healthy, strong. Proving that broken things can heal. That second chances are real. That love can survive anything. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "So tonight, I'm announcing the Maya Torres Harrington Medical Initiative." Julian's voice rang out. £100 million dedicated to supporting doctors who experience trauma, to providing mental health resources, to creating protocols that protect medical professionals who make impossible choices, because no one should have to suffer the way Maya suffered for doing their job with integrity. The room erupted in applause. Maya started crying. Happy tears. Julian kissed her forehead and whispered, "You're not defined by your worst day. You're defined by every day you chose to keep going." The gala raised $230 million for healthcare initiatives. Maya's story, her redemption, became a symbol of resilience. And somewhere in a modest flat in South London, Derek Ashford watched the broadcast and understood that he hadn't just lost Maya. He'd lost his chance at becoming a better person. While Maya had healed and grown and built something beautiful, Derek had stayed stuck in bitterness and blame. Now it was too late. 6 months after the public humiliation, Maya gave birth to Hope Catherine Harrington, 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Perfect. She came into the world screaming, healthy and strong. Julian cut the cord, crying so hard he could barely see. Maya held their daughter and felt a completion she'd never thought possible. In the hospital room, with Hope sleeping in her arms, Maya said to Julian, "I forgive you." Julian looked up from where he was sitting beside the bed. "What?" "For the lies, for hiding who you were. I forgive you." "Maya, but if you ever lie to me again, if you ever hide something that big, we're done. I need honesty. Always." "Always," Julian promised. "No more lies, ever." Hope made a small sound. They both looked down at her. This miracle baby. This second chance. "She looks like you," Julian whispered. "She looks like hope," Maya corrected. "Like the future. Like proof that terrible things don't have to define us." 3 months after Hope was born, Maya went back to work. Not to surgery, not yet, but to the Maya Torres Harrington Medical Initiative, creating support systems for doctors, developing protocols for impossible situations, making sure no one else had to face what she'd faced alone. She became an advocate, a speaker, a voice for medical professionals who suffered in silence. And Derek? Derek spent the next year in therapy, real therapy, processing his grief over Noah, his guilt over the drowning, his shame over what he'd done to Maya. He started volunteering at a children's hospital, not for publicity, not for redemption, but because it was the only way he could think of to honor Noah's memory. He never contacted Maya again, never tried to apologize again, just worked quietly on becoming less of the man who'd thrown dirty water at a pregnant woman and more of the man who could live with himself. 2 years after the humiliation, Maya and Julian renewed their vows. This time, not in a courthouse. In a small church in East London where Maya's mother attended, with 200 people who actually knew them, who loved them. Maya wore a dress she chose herself. Julian wore a suit with Hope's baby handprints on the pocket square. And their vows were honest, real, built on truth. I promise to always tell you the truth, even when it's hard. Julian's voice was steady. I promise to be worthy of your trust. I promise to protect you and Hope and any other children we're blessed with. I promise to love you not despite your scars, but because of your strength. Maya's turn. I promise to forgive your mistakes. I promise to build a life with you based on who we really are. I promise to be a partner, not a possession. I promise to love you for who you are, billions and all. They kissed. Everyone cried. Hope babbled from her grandmother's arms. And in that moment, Maya realized something. The dirty water Derek threw at her 2 years ago hadn't destroyed her. It had baptized her, washed away the last remnants of the woman who believed she deserved punishment. She'd emerged someone new, someone stronger, someone who understood that her value wasn't determined by the cruelty of others or the tragedies she'd survived. She was worthy. She'd always been worthy. If you've made it this far in the story, I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this channel is dedicated to telling stories that remind us we're stronger than our worst days. Stories that show us redemption is possible, that love can heal, that cruelty doesn't get the last word. Share this in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if you've ever been judged for an impossible choice. Tell me if you've survived something that tried to destroy you. Let's build a community of survivors who refuse to stay broken. The lesson from Maya's story isn't complicated. It's this. People will try to define you by your worst moment. They'll weaponize your pain. They'll make you believe you deserve suffering. But here's the truth. You are not what happened to you. You're not the tragedy you survived. You're not the person who couldn't see your value. You are who you choose to become after the water dries. Maya chose to heal, to grow, to build a life where her trauma became her testimony, where her pain became her purpose. Derek chose bitterness, blame, cruelty, and he lost everything. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 11:17, a man who is kind benefits himself, but a cruel man hurts himself. Derek proved that truth. His cruelty toward Maya didn't just hurt her, it destroyed him. Galatians 6-7 says, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Derek sowed humiliation and reaped devastation. Maya sowed compassion and reaped a kingdom. But here's the most important part. Redemption isn't just for the victim. It's available to everyone who's willing to do the hard work of change. Derek started that work. Too late to save his relationship with Maya. Too late to undo the damage, but not too late to become a better person. Because that's the thing about grace. It's available even to people who don't deserve it. Maya didn't have to forgive Derek. She chose to release him from her story. That's power. Julian didn't have to tell the world the truth. He chose vulnerability over image. That's love. Derek didn't have to face his guilt. He chose therapy over continued bitterness. That's growth. Every character in this story made choices. Some good, some terrible. But they all had the opportunity to choose differently. And so do you. If you're Maya in your story, the one who's been blamed and shamed for things beyond your control, hear this. You are not responsible for other people's inability to see your worth. You are valuable. You are worthy. You are enough. Stop carrying guilt that isn't yours. Stop accepting narratives that paint you as the villain. Stop believing that your worst day defines your entire existence. You get to rewrite your story. Starting now. If you're Derek in your story, the one who's hurt people because you couldn't face your own pain, hear this. It's not too late to change. It's not too late to apologize. It's not too late to become the person you should have been all along. But it starts with accountability, with facing the truth about what you've done, with doing the hard work of healing so you stop hurting others. And if you're Julian, the one who loves someone but has made mistakes, hear this. Grand gestures don't fix broken trust. Only consistent honesty over time can do that. Show up, tell the truth, do the work. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every single day. The dirty water that hit Maya's belly that day was meant to shame her, to remind her of her place, to put her back in the box Derek had built for her. But it didn't work. Because Maya had already done the work of rebuilding herself. She'd already learned her value. She'd already chosen to believe she deserved love. So when the water hit, it didn't destroy her. It revealed the difference between who she used to be and who she'd become. The old Maya might have believed she deserved it. The new Maya knew better. That's the transformation we're all working toward. The moment when cruelty bounces off us because we finally know our worth. You are not your trauma. You are not your mistakes. You are not other people's opinions. You are a person of infinite value, created with purpose, deserving of love and respect and second chances. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's living well. It's healing so completely that the people who tried to break you become irrelevant to your happiness. Maya didn't need Julian to destroy Derek, but she didn't stop him either, because sometimes consequences are necessary. Sometimes people need to learn that cruelty has a price. But Maya's real victory wasn't Derek's fall. It was her rise, her healing, her family, her purpose, her joy. That's what we're all fighting for. Not revenge, but peace. Not destruction of our enemies, but freedom from their power over us. Before I end this, I want to pray for you, wherever you are, whatever you're facing. God, I pray for the person watching this right now who's been blamed for things beyond their control. Remind them of their worth. Heal their wounds. Give them courage to rewrite their story. I pray for the person who's hurt others and carries that guilt. Give them the strength to face the truth, to apologize, to change, to become who they were meant to be. I pray for the person in a relationship built on lies. Give them wisdom to know what to do, courage to demand honesty, grace to forgive when appropriate. And I pray for everyone who feels broken. Remind them that broken things can be made beautiful, that scars tell stories of survival, that their worst days don't get to write their final chapter. In Jesus' name, amen. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of your own strength, if it gave you hope, please share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this. Someone needs to know they're not alone. That redemption is real. That healing is possible. Subscribe to Cedar Drama for more stories that speak to the heart, that remind us we're stronger than we know, that prove love, truth, and integrity always win in the end. Drop a comment telling me what this story meant to you. I read every single one. Your stories matter. Your healing matters. You matter. Until next time, remember this. The water that tried to shame you can become the water that washes you clean. The pain that tried to destroy you can become the platform that elevates you. And the people who underestimated you will watch in amazement as you rise. You are not who they said you were. You are who God says you are.